redfish right there. I'm on. Caught him tailing. Really nice red on that Power Prawn Junior with that Haas helix, man. Was perfect. Sat right down in that grass for me, right in front of the redfish, and he smoked it with this Daiwa BGMQ, y'all. This thing is performing. Woo! Caught him tailing, pitched that Power Prawn Junior USA right in front of his face on that Haas helix hook, and he could not resist it.
What's going on, Salt Strong Nation? It's Matt, and I'm back with a really quick tip for you guys. Recently, I was on a trip with our favorite traveling fishing coach, Pat Ogletree, and he and I were fishing a spot together, and we were in a tough condition. We found ourselves in a spot during high tide when it was near a full moon, and we had a pretty good tide swing. And we also had some winds pushing in a little bit more water into our fishing zone than we expected. So what we had was some high grass and some submerged grass that we were having to fish. So I want to talk to you about the best lure for that type of situation and what we found to be the best tactic for that condition. So let's go ahead and get into that right now. Now, as I said, with the conditions, we had a high tide. It was close to a full moon, so we had a really nice tide swing, and we had a lot of water movement. But we also had a really heavy prevailing wind. Now, that pushed a lot of water into the fishing zone that we had, so we were fishing with about 1.5 feet extra water than we were normally used to. Now, we know in situations like this, in flood tides and other situations when there's a lot of water, those redfish, they'll push into that grass. In this situation, there was a lot of snails that was clinging to the blades of grass that were sticking out of the water, and they were trying to retreat from the little crabs that were in the grass because the crabs were feeding on the snails and the redfish were going in the grass to feed on those crabs. It was a really big buffet system in that grass, and Pat and I had to figure out the right lure and the right presentation to make sure that we could get in there with those redfish and get the bites that we were looking for when we pushed into that flooded grass. Little did I know, when Pat and I split up and went our separate ways, we had both changed lures. We had been using the Fred paddle tail and the Gold Digger paddle tail up to that point with great success. However, when we pushed into that grass, we needed a different bait profile that was going to mimic what the forage of those redfish was. And in that situation for us on that day, what that was the USA Power Prawn Junior. And we did have that hooked on the 1/8 ounce Haas Helix hook. And that was the ticket for us on that day. Like I said, Pat and I weren't even fishing right next to each other, but when we regrouped after we had both caught our fish, we were talking about how we'd found success, and lo and behold, we had both switched over to the exact same lure with the exact same hook, giving us the exact same presentation to dial in those fish. Now, with this Power Prawn USA Junior, and its small profile on this Haas Helix hook, it is perfect for getting down in that submerged grass or in those grass lines when you need to cast into the grass and pull your lure slowly out of it. This is absolutely perfect for that. As you saw in the footage, I did not get hung up at all, and I was able to just glide over those blades of grass and everything that was in my way, so that when I got my lure in front of that fish, I was able to, without snag, get the bite I was looking for. The ability for that bait to slide down that hook is super important, and like I said, with this wide gap, that just gives you a better chance of staying pinned up to that fish when you go to set that hook and get that strike. As you can see in the footage from that catch, that redfish did everything he could to try and remove this hook from his mouth, but with that wide gap, I was able to get a really good hook set and maintain a good strong pin up to that fish the entire fight. Now, there were two other things that I did to this bait to ensure that we had the best success possible, but I don't want to tell you about that just yet. I'll get into that in just a second. I do want to go ahead and show you how we rig these baits, so let's go ahead and jump right into that. All right, Salt Strong Nation, so we're back, and we do have our Power Prawn Junior USA right here. These are the Slam Shady color. That's just another option for color choice that you have. I will be using the original Power Prawn color right here, and we do have our 1/8 ounce 3/0 Haas Helix hooks right here in front of us, and that's everything we need to do the basic presentation of this bait. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take this twist lock right here, and we're going to go ahead and line it up right there in the middle of the nose of the head of this bait. We'll get it lined up right there in the middle, and once it's right in the middle, we'll just go ahead and push it all the way down to that corkscrew. And once we get to that screw, we'll just start to twist either the bait or the hook. I just do the bait because it's easier for me. So we get that bait twisted down onto the end of the hook there. And what we'll do is once that bait gets down to the end of the hook, we will make sure that the belly slot is matched up with the hook. And we'll go ahead and measure where that hook shank is going to come out of the bait. So it's going to come out about right there. So what I'll do is I'll measure it with my thumb, and when I put the hook in there, I'll make sure that hook point goes to that same spot where I had my thumb, come straight out through the top of that bait, and make sure I'm right there in the middle, as you can see there, so that that hook sits on there straight. That's a good hook placement so that it won't have any unnatural motion in the water. But another thing that we did to ensure that we remained weedless while we were presenting this bait was we went ahead and skin hooked the top of this so that the hook point was not out to snag any of that grass that was really heavy in there. What we did was we just pinched and pulled the bait forward a little bit so that we could bury the front end of that hook in the top of that bait. So now, as you can see there, I can actually run my finger over the top of this and actually not get hung up by the tip of that hook. So in essence, the tip of that hook was not going to be able to grab any of that grass that we were throwing in either. Now, I also told you that there were two other things that we did to this bait to ensure that we had the success that we were looking for, and those two things are super easy as well. They are the Dr. Juice and the battle rattles. Both of these are super simple things to do. With the Dr. Juice, what I like to do is just put it on it or in my bait bag on the baits and let them sit in there on that Dr. Juice in advance. But these battle rattles right here, these are super great because they give these Power Prawn USA Juniors just an extra element of sound, because when you're in windy conditions or just like we were, where there was just a lot of cover, those battle rattles can really help you when trying to draw those fish out of that heavy cover. So I want to go ahead and show you how I've been putting these on my shrimp lures, just so that you can see how to do it yourself when you're on the water or at home. So what I like to do is actually right here in the back end of the belly cavity right here, I'll go ahead and take the hook out so that it makes it a little bit easier to see. Right back here in the back of the bait, you'll see that there's this belly cavity. Right there, there's a little bit of a slope in the bait. What I like to do is just push this right there in that slope that goes right there into the tail. Now, if you just apply enough gentle pressure into that tail with that rattle, it'll just snug itself right in there. I'm not sure if you can see that or not, but it is positioned in there. And with that being in there, you can go ahead and push it down in there just a bit further, and that plastic will close up just enough to where you can keep it in there. And then you can go ahead and reposition your hook back in your desired place, just like you did before. And now your lure is ready to go, complete with the rattle inside. I don't know if you can hear this, but that rattle can be super effective for when trying to get those fish's attention in some of that heavy cover. That was just a quick and easy way to rig these up. The Dr. Juice is always effective. I put that on absolutely every single one of my baits that I throw out, including hard baits. So I would definitely recommend picking up some of that as well. Again, all of this is available at the tackle shop at fishstrong.com. Now, in conclusion, if you're ever in a situation when you're trying to fish around tall grass or heavy submerged grass, one of the best lures to use will be the Power Prawn U.S.A. hooked on one of these Haas Helix hooks. The 1/8 ounce is what I prefer, just because it has a really smooth transition into that water column so that it doesn't make any heavy splash or any erratic movements when it's moving through the water column. And the more weight you add to one of these hooks, or the heavier the hook is, the more chance you have of getting hung up in that grass. And these Haas Helix hooks just do a great job of keeping you weedless and keeping you pinned up to that fish. Also, those extra it factors of adding some scent to this bait, as well as adding that battle rattle on the inside, only just ensure that you have better chances of drawing that fish in to your bait. And when they come to it, because they hear it moving through the water and in that grass, when they get close to it and they start smelling it, they smell that scent on the bait and they'll go ahead and eat it. Again, I want to remind you all that we do have all of this in the tackle shop. The Power Prawns in all of their new colors, as well as the original, the Haas Helix hook, the Dr. Juice, as well as the battle rattles that I put inside. Putting all of those together just creates a really great presentation for those fish in these high grass situations. I do want to point out that not only are all of these available in our tackle shop at fishstrong.com, but our Salt Strong Insider members do get exclusive discounts on all of their tackle at the tackle shop, and they do get access to the new Smart Fishing Spots app as well. And if you have any questions for me about this setup, or even the setup that I was throwing this with, if you want to know about what type of rod and reel, line, leader, and everything that I like to use when I throw one of these into heavy grass, let me know in the comments section, and I'll be sure to get back to you on that as well. But if you have any other questions for me, don't hesitate to reach out to me in the comments section. And as always, thank you so much for watching. And if you're new to Salt Strong, just know that we are the #1 online fishing club in America. We actually guarantee to help you find and catch more fish, save money on tackle, make friends while doing it, or it's free. So we hope to see you in the Salt Strong Insider Club soon, and thanks for watching.